Hi everyone, I'm Law of the West, and for this buyer's guide, I'm going to be talking about the Sabre Firebird. I'll start things off by going over what kind of ship it is, and then I'll talk about who'd be interested in getting this type of vessel, and then I'll finish things off with a short summary. So what kind of ship is it? The Firebird is a variation on the Sabre Raven's chassis. It's had the EMP device ripped out and replaced with a bespoke missile rack. One of its major competitors is the Talon Shrike, which fills a very similar role but trades off having weaker guns for more missiles, or at least it used to, but I'll get into that in more detail in a second. The Firebird is classified as being a medium fighter/interceptor, and for weapons it has 2 size 3 guns and originally came with a complement of 12 size 3 missiles that it could shoot in a barrage of up to 6 at a time, although they've since upgraded it from 12 to now having 24 missiles. So who's this ship going to be for, and what kind of playstyle does the Firebird cater to? If you want the answer to those questions, you have to look at the ship from the perspective of being either a solo pilot or from someone who's going to be doing a majority of their fighting while running with a group. Because I think that this ship's usefulness is going to play out very differently depending on which of these two scenarios applies to you. If you're planning on running solo while using this ship, then you're going to be doing a lot of hit and run tactics where you'd be trying to take your enemies down one ship at a time. And during each attack, you deliver as much damage to your target as you could in one salvo and then retreat, reset, and then come back for another run. From there, you'd keep rinse and repeating this over and over again until you either run out of missiles or targets to fire on. Having to heavily rely on its missiles as its primary weapon has both a series of strengths and weaknesses to it. And the obvious advantage to being able to fire a barrage of 6 size 3 missiles at one time is that the ship is going to be able to deliver a lot of damage with each strike. Having that attack power is going to come at a heavy cost. Because once you run out of missiles, you're only going to have 2 size 3 guns to rely on, and that's not going to be enough to out DPS most opponents. Which is definitely not a position you want to be in if you're going to be flying solo. And with the new master modes, escaping enemies isn't going to be nearly as easy as it used to be. Another thing is that it's going to end up being very expensive to have to resupply your spent ordnance after each battle, which is going to cut pretty deeply into the amount of money that you're going to be making for doing missions. And that's assuming there's going to be anything left after factoring in the repair cost and fuel expenses. So for those reasons, I see this ship as not being the best choice to use for going on solo missions. And if that's what you're planning on using it for, or if you want to use it as a PvP fighter, then there's better options for you to choose from. But I do see this ship's potential start to shine when it's being flown as part of a group of fighters. It seems that what they're trying to do with the Firebird is create a companion craft that complements the other Sabre's abilities. So the stock fighter's role will be to do the dogfighting, while the Raven will be used to intercept and take an enemy's shields down. And the Firebird would provide missile support to either soften up enemies or finish them off. So in that aspect, this ship has a very important role to play, but how effective it is in playing that role is going to depend on what kinds of ships you're flying with and how well you end up coordinating your attacks. But there are some reasons why someone would want to get this ship regardless if they're a social or a solo player. Well, first, it's an opportunity for anyone who wants to own a ship that looks a lot like the Raven to finally be able to get one. The Firebird's chassis has an ultra slick design, and I'd go as far as to say that even though most of the changes that have been done to it are subtle, it looks even better than the Raven does. And finally, it's a combat ship for people who don't like to dogfight. And that's the kind of playstyle that this ship provides, regardless if you run with a group or if you like to fly by yourself. What I mean by that is it offers an alternative to the 1v1 fighting style that almost all the other ships seem to adhere to. And that's the appeal that this ship is going to have for some people. It caters to a specific type of gameplay that differs from traditional dogfighting, or it could offer an alternative for people who are looking for a change of pace when it comes to ship-to-ship combat. Now, those are the upsides to the Firebird. Well, I feel that its drawbacks are that it has a lower weapons DPS than a light fighter, and its resupply needs are going to be on the expensive side. And I like to also remind everyone that if you're still undecided about the Firebird, you're going to be able to buy every one of these ships in-game using the credits that you've earned by doing missions. You shouldn't let FOMO make you feel like you have to run out and buy something that you're unsure of, because you don't. And for some people, it could end up being more satisfying if you turn getting a ship into an in-game goal for you to reach, and make that the motivation for why you're doing missions. Well, that's going to be it for this buyer's guide for the Aegis Firebird. I've been your host, Law of the West. Thanks for watching, and take care.